Welcome to Dirt, Sweat, and Gears, your hidey hole for hopeless hoopties. We are here with my 1982 Chevy S-10 pickup, and in the last video, some unfortunate things happened. I got this thing running and driving after a full rebuild from the bottom up, and well, it turns out I screwed up a little bit. This is the piston. I believe this is the number 2 piston in my S-10 2.8 block. And it seems when I put this thing together, failed to properly torque the connecting rod bearing caps. This is all my fault. I could make all the excuses in the world I want, and probably some people on YouTube would believe it, but the people that really know will see very clearly it's all my fault. Now, with that spectacular failure came a bit of a win in disguise. You see, my original plan with this truck all along from the beginning was to get a hold of a 3.4 liter motor because they are compatible with the S-10 2.8, slam the manifolds on and get it in the truck and enjoy 50 more horsepower. But at the time, I decided I was going to rebuild the motor that was in there because I could not find a 3.4 anywhere that I looked. Actually, that's not entirely true. There's V6 Camaros in scrapyards all over Southern California, but I am not interested at all in digging around in the engine compartment of a 94 Camaro for its stupid V6. You pretty much got to drop the entire front K-member in order to get to it. Complete pain in the ass, not something I'm going to do myself in a junkyard. But I got really lucky. The day that I realized what I had done to my 2.8, I went online and I found this 3.4 available at California Mini Truck in Montclair, California. They are a really great dismantler, truck enthusiasts, small truck enthusiasts. So when I told them what I was doing with my S10, the guy that sold this thing to me just lit up with joy. He was so happy to hear it. Told me about his S10 and how he got it all tricked out, lowered with big rims, and got it looking really good, and then it got stolen. Really unfortunate. But all of the guys there know what they're doing, and they were happy to help me find this motor. This is I did not get any kind of discount for plugging their shop. That's just where I got it from. But I might be back there someday. We'll see how this goes. So in this video, we're going to take apart everything we don't need from this 3.4. We're going to put on all of the things we do need, and we're going to put this thing in the truck. And then we're going to see if this motor runs. Now, if you watched the last video where I did a thorough inspection of this thing, there's no reason to believe this thing won't fire up and run just fine. But in this video, we're going to find out for sure if this thing runs, because if you're a regular follower of this channel, you'll know what I'm about to say next. There's only one way to find out. Let's get this thing apart. We got a lot, if not all, of the gaskets and things that we need to put this motor back together. And since the motor is already upright, I'm going to start up here. So I'm going to pull the lifters out and one by one put lifter cam assembly oil on the lifters so that they are nice and greased up and we won't have a hard start there. And then I'm going to put the intake manifold gasket in, and I'm going to put the push rods in. For adjusting the valve lash, there is a really great video that I reference. I'll put a link in the description. So the way he explains it is really simple. You have a rock and adjust pattern, and you start by listing out the firing order of your engine, and in this case, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And you repeat the pattern over here with 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3. And this is going to tell you which valves you rock in order to get to the overlap position, and then you adjust the ones that are counter to that. So I'm not going to go through the nitty-gritty of that. We'll do a quick time lapse because I may do it wrong, and then you're going to laugh at me. Well, you're going to laugh at me anyway. We need to get the oil pickup screen mounted in the correct place on the engine. So you want to get this pickup tube screen close to the bottom of the pan without touching it. And you don't want it to touch the pan because if it touches it, it's not going to be able to suck in oil. So what you want to do here is you got to take your pan, and then you got to take a measuring tape, and you need to measure the distance from the bottom of the pan to the top of the pan. Take your wood block, measure that distance to where the bottom of the pan is, and we are about 7 3/4. And then you're going to want your screen to be about 3/8 an inch off of that. Don't quote me on that. Look it up in the book to make sure that that clearance is correct. So to come a little bit down from 7 3/4, we're going to go to about 7 and just before a 1/2 inch. So once you know how deep your oil pan is, you need to measure off of that distance. So we want to come in just a little bit shy of 7 1/2. So I've got this block marked off right about where it needs to be. And what we're going to do here is, attempt to grow a second pair of arms. And since that doesn't go too well, you have to just kind of eyeball it as best you can. And so what I did here is I found approximately where I need to be. I'm actually a little bit lower than where I had marked off, which is probably fine. And then once you have your mark here, you want to get a white paint marker and mark off. I put 3 marks on here just to be safe. So you mark this off, and once you mark this off, you need to take the oil pump off along with the pickup tube screen, go to your bench and hammer it in with a $100 tool. Go take a look at that right now. Now, if you buy this tool online, chances are you're going to see the video demonstrating exactly how to do what I'm showing you. So that's why we're over here at our bench. You never want to do this on a vise or on the engine. Never. All right, if we can get this stupid thing to sit in here at all, we might be able to get this thing to mount correctly. We got our lines, they line up close enough, and we're going to tap this in a little bit. So that it does absolutely nothing. Feel it going in. Okay. All right, looks like I got the party started. I want to double check this. I'm going to put it back on the motor, take measurements again before I commit to this. So now we're going to test fit the pan before we commit to our setup here, and this is going to be a complete pain in the balls. There we go. And so I think I'm very much definitely touching the bottom of the pan this time. Here we're looking to see if it hangs up in the pan, and sure enough it did. You saw it hanging off of the oil pan. but also we have a grease impression inside the oil pan. So we're going to want to reposition this, try again, and figure out where we need to be. All right, we're going to try it again. I've repositioned this, just sit with my hands. And that's why you want to test fit before you commit. Always test before you commit. If you're a software developer, you know exactly why. I need to come down even a little bit farther. I'm going to go ahead and just press on the pan and then go down a little bit from there. Yeah, we did not contact the pan with our grease, so we are ready to commit and slam this thing in. Really glad that I checked this before I slammed it in all the way. For the final time. All right. Spend the next hour finding bolts. I have been doing a little bit of work off camera to the S10, and you can see that because there's a few less parts in the bed. We are making progress. And as we pan over to the engine here, it's looking really, really good. I really wish I could have used the valve covers that came with the new engine. As you can see over there, they're painted and they look gorgeous. They look like a piece of candy. But unfortunately, those do not have this hardware for the throttle cable and for the kickdown cable. So I really needed that hardware, which meant that I had to reuse these valve covers. But I used some of these little brackets here to help hold them down better. And I think it's going to seal a little bit better than it would have before. And with a fresh coat of paint and a thorough clear, it just looks gorgeous. And I'm really trying not to get my filthy hands all over this. We'll see how that goes as I get this thing into the truck. It's probably going to get ruined. I got the headers on. I've got the oil pan on. Everything is all nice and sealed up. One of the little differences about this engine and the one that I took out of it was that it had some sensors. And originally, I really wanted to get freeze plugs to cover up those holes, but it just wasn't working out. I tried 4 different sizes of freeze plugs, and I found one that would work. However, in order to make it work, I think I would have had to machine the block a little bit, and that's not something that I'm going to do because I don't want to tear the motor down. I wanted to keep the heads on it. I wanted to keep the rods and the bearings and all of that intact. So I put those sensors back in. There's a cam angle sensor here, and then there was an oil sensor that we saw on the other side. Just put them back in with new O-rings and plenty of RTV. They're going to seal up just fine, and you don't even see it. Like, seriously, once we get the hose on this thing, you're not even going to notice this at all. We also finally got an oil filter housing seal. We're going to try to put that on today. It is not the best fit in the world, but I think with plenty of RTV, it's going to be just fine. So I'm going to put that on, and once I get the oil filter housing on, this motor is ready to go back into the truck. Speaking of the oil filter housing, there's subtle differences between these two. The first subtle difference is that we have this little ring groove here, and that's why I had to use a rubber seal instead of the gasket that comes on the other one. The other one is just a regular gasket. It's much easier to find. However, the hole for the oil pressure sending unit is a different size than the one on my truck. So I had to use the one that came off of my truck, and that meant that I had to go find the seal again. Found it. We're going to get it back on. We're going to get it in the truck. This thing, oh my God, it looks so good. Once I get this thing mated up to the transmission, I can slip it into the truck and start to do the final reassembly. Well, hopefully final.
Before you mate the transmission to the engine, you want to seat the torque converter into the transmission all the way. You want to use the flex plate that came with the engine you bought, not the old engine you took out. This is because the S10 2.8 is externally balanced. meaning the flex plate has some extra weights in it that you don't want on the new internally balanced 3.4 engine. This time around, I chose not to bolt the torque converter to the flex plate until after I put the engine in the truck. I thought it would be easier that way, but I was wrong. The last, most important thing to remember is to not go apeshit when bolting your transmission to the engine. They should go together smoothly and easily. If you have any binding, back out all the bolts, split the transmission from the engine. It's most likely that your torque converter is not seated all the way down. Ask me how I know.
Well, now that I've moved the engine to its current location, I gotta say, it really does improve the feng shui of my garage. It's almost like it was meant to be right where it is right now. So after I got the engine in, I put the crossmember up underneath to support the transmission, and we're actually good to finish putting this thing together. We are officially over the hump. We are on the downhill, and it is just hopefully cruise control from here on out. Just a quick little check-in here. I got most of the vacuum lines sorted out. I've got some of the accessories hung. I'm not worried about the power steering pump just yet because I got some things to do down here with the, the old fuel pump location. Since we don't have a fuel pump, mechanical fuel pump on this motor, we have to add an electrical fuel pump. And I've done some research, and I figure the safest way of installing a electric fuel pump in this truck is to just get an electric fuel pump that's made for it. So I have one on order. I just have to run the relay. I've also got a fuel pressure regulator on the way. Just a few days from now, we're going to get that all hooked up. And with the fuel pressure regulator, well, I have one here, but this turns out to be the wrong one. I need to get one with a return line. And I'm going to hook it up to the factory return line with the factory feed line and all factory settings. So the in-tank fuel pump is going to put out a little bit more pressure than this truck needs, which is why I want to get a regulator with a return so that I can send the rest of the fuel back to the fuel tank where it belongs. And so that's why you see this over here. I've actually begun some of the electrical work that I've been looking to do. First thing, I really wanted to install a battery switch because it was kind of a pain in the ass having to unhook the battery manually. Now I can just turn a switch to turn it on or off. And for any aftermarket accessories or non-factory accessories, I've got a little fuse panel here. And this takes up to 5 fuses, so that should be enough for my needs on this truck. I don't really see myself needing more than 5 additional fuses, but I can upgrade it later on if I need to. It uses the battery cutoff switch the same way that the starter runs. So we've got this cable running down to the starter, and then, strangely enough, the rest of the truck is actually powered off of the starter. So there's really no change to the way this truck is wired up from here back. I figured this was a good time to check in on my progress because Radwood is just about a week and a half away, and I'm starting to feel the crunch. The fuel pressure regulator has arrived, but I'm still waiting on the fuel pump. So there's going to be no starting this truck until that arrives. In the meantime, I don't want to waste any time, so I have been trying to sort out this fuel system as good as I can. You see here, I've got the fuel pressure regulator mounted, return line is hooked up, the feed is hooked up, but the feed into the carburetor is what I am currently working on. I've pulled the original hard line out, and I have it over here on my bench. I want to show you what I did with it because I made a few changes. The fuel line sits underneath the carburetor just like this, farther down, and as you can see, I have cut off the other end, and I have made a bend to kind of point it towards the fuel pressure regulator. I can grab this hose here. Which hose? If I can grab this hose right here, I can show you that it's gonna connect with it right around here. I've made some more progress on the S10, and it is starting to look a little more truckish. You see, we have the front end mostly back together. We have the truck on the ground, and that actually makes things a lot easier to work on, especially since I have put the core support and the radiator back in. So now I just break my back working on the thing. I don't have to stand on something and fall off of it and break my ankles. I now have this side of the fuel system more or less done. The deburring tool arrived and I put a bubble flare just behind this hose here so that the hose has something to grab onto as it's going on. I'm not really concerned about any kind of fluid turbulence. This is a low pressure system to begin with. The fuel pressure regulator comes preset at, I believe, 7.5 psi. That might be too much for this carburetor. I don't know yet. I'm having trouble finding the spec on that. So before we start this up, I am going to have to double check that and see if I need to adjust it. Since some of my lights were broken, I figured this would be a perfect opportunity to upgrade to Auxito LED lights. They have been a partner of the channel for a long time. I've been sharing their links in the description. There's a link in the description of this video, so you can pick up some LED lights for your car, truck, whatever, if you want. But on this truck, we're going to run Auxito LEDs in the turn signals and the headlights and maybe the tail lights. I tried to take off the tail lights, but they started to make very fragile noises. So I decided that I didn't want to touch it just yet. I'm not brave enough at this particular moment. So right now, I just want to test that the turn signals work. And since we don't have a fuel pump yet, I don't want a hot wire in the back of the truck. So I've taken out the fuse to the fuel pump. I've also taken out the fuse to the other accessory that I'm not talking about in this video. And we're going to hook up the battery, turn it on, and see if we have turn signals. Of course, I'm recording in case I start a fire. All right, I'm a little bit scared, so forgive me for being cautious. Nothing's sparking, nothing's catching fire. Whew. I've got a fire extinguisher. I can put it out if I need to. All right, we might have turn signals. It's making the noise. Is it blinking? Yes, it is. All right. The side marker is, this is doing nothing. I wonder if this is a headlight. Let's test the other turn signal. It's not going off. Okay. There we go. Yep, that's working. There we are. Do the bottom lights turn on? Yes, they did, and they are nice and bright. Of course, the lens, oh my God, look at all the crap that's inside these lenses. I'm going to have to clean that out here. Just look at all of the crap that's inside these lenses. These are really bright LEDs behind here, and they are just completely, ugh, that's gross. All right, so I probably want to try to fix that before I start a fire with whatever's inside of there. But we definitely also want to upgrade our headlights. Let's get those in right now since we're on the topic already. So I'm not going to do a big long commercial on Auxito because I purchased these. I'm under no obligation. So I threw one in on one side and we've got the old seal beam on the other side, and I just want to see the difference because I'm curious. Ooh. Ooh. Yeah, these are definitely way brighter. They're wider. I'm not necessarily thrilled about the color, but the brightness is definitely a huge difference here. I would kind of like an amber tinge to these. In fact, there's a little light inside here that I could probably switch out for amber and wire it up if I really wanted to do something about that. But I think I really don't. I'm really just more interested in the amount of light that it puts out, and that's just going to make driving at night that much safer, especially with modern cars having the surface of the sun pointed at you, coming in opposite directions. This is just going to be so much better than having these sealed beams. So that said, I'm not getting rid of these sealed beams. I've got plenty of vehicles coming in and out that I'm sure that they're going to end up on someday. So let's get this other one switched out, and we'll be done with the lighting on this truck for now. This looks really, really nice. Why don't I turn off the lights of the garage just for a second so that we can appreciate them. Boom. Look at that. I received my fuel pressure gauge and cut it in right by the regulator. It's a little bit close to the belt, but it's zip tied, so I really don't think it's going to go anywhere. I really don't like this right here, but I think it's going to be fine for testing purposes. Once I know that things are going to run, I am very likely going to bend my own hard line for this so that I can put the gauge right here, kind of up against the wheel well here, and then I can run the hose, a little bit more straight. And at least the bendy parts can come through a hard line, not a soft line. Underneath the bed, we have the fuel pump all wired up. This is not my proudest moment in wiring. You can see the power wire for the fuel pump is on the other side of the lines from the fuel sending unit. So that's kind of annoying, but I don't really care. Before I close this up, I'll probably wrap some of this in some conduit, but no one's going to see it, so I don't need to worry about it looking pretty. I just want to make sure that it's all, safe and protected, and I'm pretty sure I'm at least close to that point. I'm really nervous about this next step here because, well, everything is ready to fire up in theory. The first thing I need to do here is build oil pressure. When I put this motor together, I put cam assembly oil on the lifters, so I'm not terribly worried about that in terms of a cold start from sitting for a long time. I'm a little bit nervous about the crankshaft bearings, but I think as long as I build oil pressure first, crank it over for a good long time, and cycle oil through the engine, I think I'm going to be okay. And since we don't have fuel, I've taken the fuse out of the relay. Since we don't have spark, because I have not connected the coil to the distributor, I think we're good to start building some oil pressure. We have oil pressure. I think it's beyond 60. I think this is a higher pressure oil pump. So we have oil pressure. Turn it off. Turn everything off. Then we're going to hook up the fuel and spark and see what happens. Turn it off. Something happened. Something good happened. That's good. We did have a backfire, which means our timing is off. Our timing may be 100 degrees, 180 out, potentially. But I don't think so. My heart is beating so fast right now. Oh my God. Okay, we've got a mighty exhaust leak. It sounds like it's on this side. But it ran. Whoo, okay. Okay, I'm going to address this exhaust leak, and I'll check back in with you in a little bit. This is really good news, but I'm really shaking right now. So I'm going to calm down a little bit. Whoo, this was a lot of work. This was a lot of work. We're just a few days away from Radwood, and the reality is dawning on me. I'm not taking this truck to the show. It's, I gotta admit, pretty deflating, very demoralizing. This truck has been 6 months in the making, and that was the one thing I wanted to do with this truck, was to take it to Radwood and tell its story. But I think that's going to have to wait a little bit longer, maybe next year. We still have a huge win on our hands, and I'm going to take that. I'm going to use that as motivation to get this truck finished up and done right. It's going to be on the road safely and reliably, and I am going to be so damn proud that I put all of this work into this really cool truck. So with that, if you like what you see, like, share, subscribe, and comment. And if you don't like what you see, maybe you were really looking forward to seeing this truck at Radwood. I hate to break it to you, but sometimes that's just how it goes. I don't have a big YouTube budget. In fact, I have an actual YouTuber's budget, which is nothing. So I cannot quit my day job and work on this thing full time. I would have had this done a long time ago. Thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next video.